America doesn't just donate old stuff, it donates evidence. Every thrift store in this country is packed wall to wall with forgotten hobbies, dead marriages, abandoned rebrands, and objects so baffling they make you stop mid-aisle and whisper, "Who exactly was this for?" Sure, you'll find dusty jackets and chipped mugs, but you'll also find things that feel less like donations and more like unresolved side quests. So today, we're counting down 111 of the most unbelievable, hilarious, and slightly creepy things people have found in thrift stores. Number 1. The Goose Feud Scrapbook. Somebody donated a full scrapbook documenting a 20-year personal feud with a goose. Photos, notes, escalation, probably revenge energy. That's not crafting, that's long-term bird beef. Imagine hating one animal so much you accidentally create archival literature. Number 2. The Youth Pastor Dummy. A thrift shelf coughed up a ventriloquist dummy dressed like a youth pastor, which is somehow worse than either of those things separately. That's not a collectible, that's a sermon with haunted lips. One youth group definitely has stories they're still avoiding. Number 3. The Clown Tooth Jar. Someone donated a ceramic clown cookie jar filled with loose fake teeth. That's not kitchenware. That's evidence from a birthday party that ended with police lights and confused frosting. If your snacks come out of a clown mouth, therapy should come included. Number 4. George Washington eating ribs. A velvet painting of George Washington calmly eating ribs is exactly the kind of patriotic nonsense thrift stores were born to protect. That's not art history. That's barbecue mythology. Somewhere, someone looked at the Founding Fathers and thought, needs more sauce. Number 5. The Divorce Tears Jar. A mason jar labeled "Tears from my first divorce" is either a joke, a cry for help, or both. That's not storage. That's emotional reduction sauce. The scariest part is not the jar. It's the possibility that there was once a matching second jar. Number 6. Supplies for Summoning. A framed grocery list titled "Supplies for Summoning" tells you two things. 1. Someone had a plan. 2. Hobby Lobby was involved. That's not organization. That's occult budgeting. Nothing says American weirdness like treating supernatural chaos like a weekend craft errand. Number 7. The Pyramid Scheme Vest. A denim vest covered in patches from failed pyramid schemes is less clothing and more a resume of bad decisions. That's not fashion. That's multi-level trauma in wearable form. One glance and you just know this person once called everybody boss babe against their will. Number 8. Best Controlled Panic, 1986. A trophy for Best Controlled Panic, 1986 is one of the most honest awards ever made. No winner, no category. Just a clean little monument to barely holding it together. Frankly, half the country deserves an updated version every tax season. Number 9. The Plague Tea Set. A children's tea set painted with medieval plague scenes is what happens when wholesome hobbies take a hard left into epidemiological chaos. That's not playtime. That's tiny porcelain Black Death cosplay. Somewhere, a child hosted a tea party and learned too much too early. Number 10. The Disappointed State Birds. A decorative plate collection featuring all 50 state birds looking disappointed might be the most emotionally accurate thing ever donated. That's not home decor. That's ornithological judgment. Every plate looks like it knows exactly what kind of person buys decorative plates in the first place. Number 11. Live, Laugh, Loiter. A crystal ashtray engraved "Live, Laugh, Loiter" feels like the official slogan of every gas station parking lot after midnight. That's not inspiration. That's nicotine poetry. Somewhere, somebody was one Marlboro deep from calling this rustic chic and meaning it. Number 12. The Smoking Angel Lamp. A porcelain angel lamp holding a tiny cigarette is so aggressively specific it loops back around to genius. That's not religious decor. That's celestial burnout. It looks like heaven had one brutal shift, 2 divorces, and now needs 5 minutes alone by the loading dock. Number 13. The Shrimp Lava Lamp. A lava lamp filled with glitter and tiny plastic shrimp is exactly the kind of thing that makes you say, "No one needed this," right before realizing someone absolutely did. That's not lighting. That's seafood hallucination. It belongs in a beach house owned by a man with lawsuits. Number 14. Ho a Tyrant. A board game called HOA Tyrant is brutally American because everybody already knows the villain. That's not family fun. That's suburban revenge theater. I assume the goal is to destroy property values, ban personal expression, and fine your cousin for owning a visible mailbox. Number 15. Dogs dressed as presidents. A scrapbook of dogs dressed as US presidents is either insane or one of the strongest arguments for democracy ever made. That's not pet photography. That's constitutional cosplay. Nothing prepares you for Pomeranian Lincoln staring at you like he just suspended habeas corpus. Number 16. The Knitted Ranch House. A fully knitted replica of a suburban ranch house tells you someone had too much yarn and absolutely no one willing to intervene. That's not a craft project. That's textile zoning. You don't make a house out of yarn unless your brain has entered an HOA-themed fugue state. Number 17. The Possum Bride. A taxidermy possum bride carrying a bouquet is so weirdly committed it almost becomes elegant. Almost. That's not wedding decor. That's roadkill romance with lace. Somewhere, somebody looked at death, matrimony, and formal wear and thought, yes, these three belong together. Number 18. Popeye with a vape. A life-size cardboard Popeye holding a vape pen is the exact kind of modern desecration thrift stores handle with suspicious grace. That's not nostalgia. That's brand collapse. The man used to push spinach. Now he looks like he reviews energy drinks in a mall parking lot. Number 19. The Vague Threats Diploma. A framed diploma from the Midwestern Academy of Vague Threats sounds fake until you remember where we live. That's not education. That's regional communication theory. It belongs right next to phrases like interesting choice and, well, bless your heart, in the Passive Aggression Hall of Fame. Number 20. The Screaming Possum Clock. A cuckoo clock that launches a tiny screaming possum instead of a bird is not a timepiece. It's an attack. Every hour becomes a home invasion with woodwork. Somewhere, one man called this whimsical, and that man should not be allowed near walnut stain or power tools. Number 21. The Denture Armchair. A full armchair, upholstered in dentures, is the kind of thrift store find that makes you lose faith in both furniture and dentistry at the same time. That's not seating. That's a molar-based cry for help. Somewhere, somebody spent months making this instead of healing. Number 22. The Bullfrog Scholar. One shot. A 3-foot pigeon wearing a perfectly tailored cowboy hat and vest is exactly the kind of object that should not exist, yet absolutely improves the nation by existing. That's not sculpture. That's frontier poultry propaganda. Somewhere, a saloon bird lost everything and started over. Number 24. The Prosthetic Leg Lamp. A 3-foot Statue of Liberty holding a giant golden corn dog instead of a torch is the most honest patriotic symbol America has produced in decades. That's not art. That's state fair nationalism. Freedom, apparently, is deep-fried, on a stick, and lightly dusted with mustard fumes. Number 26. The Emotional Support Brick. A plain red brick with googly eyes, tucked in a tiny felt blanket and labeled Bartholomew, is somehow both idiotic and weirdly moving. That's not a joke gift. That's emotional masonry. If you name a brick and knit it bedding, you've crossed into sacred nonsense. Number 27. The Hamster Knight Armor. Someone custom-built a historically accurate miniature suit of armor for a hamster. Not a dog, not a child, a hamster. That's not a pet accessory. That's rodent feudalism. Sir Reginald of Wheelshire was apparently battle-ready, and honestly, good for him. Number 28. The Human Tooth Bowling Ball. A glittery custom bowling ball with a very real human tooth embedded near the thumb hole feels less like sports equipment and more like an omen. That's not good luck. That's laneside necromancy. Somewhere, League Night got weird and nobody asked enough questions. Number 29. The Beer Cap Knight. A full suit of knight armor made from thousands of flattened beer caps is what happens when alcoholism and craftsmanship shake hands in a garage. That's not cosplay. That's Bud Light medievalism. It probably took 10 months, 4 hot glue burns, and 1 deeply committed uncle. Number 30. The squirrel campaign stop. A taxidermy squirrel in a suit, standing behind a podium with a sign reading, "Vote for Nutsy," is somehow still more dignified than half of modern politics. That's not satire. That's campaign realism. He's got the posture, the smile, and the same vague promises. Number 31. Squirrels playing poker. 5 taxidermy squirrels seated around a card table with acorns stacked like poker chips is one of the clearest examples of America weaponizing free time. That's not cabin decor, that's woodland vice. One squirrel even hides an ace, which means the corruption runs deep. Number 32. The finger jack in the box. You crank the cheerful little music, expecting a clown. Instead, the lid pops open and a disturbingly realistic human finger springs into the air. That's not a toy. That's a felony prank from hell. Wind it twice and you officially become part of the problem. Number 33. Do not alarm the cheese. A hand-painted kitchen sign that reads, "Do not alarm the cheese," raises more questions than most religions. That's not farmhouse decor. That's dairy paranoia. What happens if the cheese is alarmed? Why was this a concern? And why does the sign sound so serious? Number 34. The heart flask. A flask shaped like an anatomically correct human heart is what you buy when regular alcoholism isn't dramatic enough. That's not barware. That's medical goth tailgating. It says, "Yes, I drink, but I'd also like everyone here to feel vaguely unsafe while I do it." Number 35. The invisible dog leash. A packaged invisible dog leash is just a handle attached to nothing, somehow marketed as a no-tangle, no-mess walking solution. And technically, they're right. That's not a pet product. That's confidence fraud in plastic packaging. Finally, a leash for dogs made entirely of denial. Number 36. Mime Emergency Kit. A red emergency box labeled, "In case of mime emergency," containing a tiny air horn and a card that just says, "Hey," is one of the pettiest objects ever mass-produced. That's not novelty decor. That's anti-performance artillery. Somewhere, a silent artist just felt a disturbance. Number 37. Being a Human Manual. A laminated manual titled "Being a Human, a User's Guide for Beginners" includes chapters on weather small talk and pretending to look busy on your phone. That's not self-help. That's anthropological panic. If you need a guidebook to seem normal, thrift stores are your natural habitat. Number 38. Canned laughter. A vintage can labeled "Genuine Canned Laughter" that requires an actual can opener is such an elegant, dumb idea it almost deserves a museum. That's not a gag gift. That's sitcom archaeology. Open it, and apparently you get nostalgia, mild disappointment, and trace amounts of the 1970s. Number 39. The tie suit. A full 3-piece suit stitched entirely from old neckties is what happens when somebody gets too inspired by Christmas disappointment. That's not fashion. That's office trauma reassembled into formal wear. Perfect for job interviews, divorce hearings, or any occasion where dignity is no longer a goal. Number 40. The Hair and Tooth Music Box. An antique music box that hides a ribbon-tied lock of human hair and a preserved child's tooth beneath a false bottom is not a keepsake. It's a Victorian jump scare. That's not sentimental. That's haunted dentistry. Congratulations, your thrift store purchase now has unfinished business. Number 41. The birdhouse eye. A cute handmade birdhouse becomes much less cute when you peer inside and find a single prosthetic glass eye staring back. That's not a craft project. That's avian surveillance. Somebody looked at a perfectly normal birdhouse and thought, needs one more reason to never trust morning chirping. Number 42. The mummified finger box. An antique jewelry box with a false bottom, hiding a mummified human finger still wearing a wedding ring, is not vintage charm. That's evidence-wearing sentimentality. Somewhere, a marriage ended so badly it became a prop, and somehow it still made it to the shelf beside costume brooches. Number 43. The crying child painting. A thrift store portrait of a sad child is creepy enough. Add a note on the back saying, "He cries at night, real tears," and now congratulations, you've purchased cursed wall anxiety. That's not decor. That's a test from the universe to see how badly you need cheap art. Number 44. The repeating tape. An old reel-to-reel recorder that plays a calm voice repeating, "They can't see me, but I can see them," for a full hour is not retro audio equipment. That's paranoia with magnetic tape. You don't buy that and see what else is in the store. You leave immediately. Number 45. Timmy's birthday tape. A VHS labeled Timmy's first birthday party should contain cake, balloons, and one uncle using a camcorder like it's a weapon. Instead, it's static for 2 hours, ending in a child's laugh melting into a scream. That's not home video. That's cursed nostalgia. Number 46. The horror portrait. A sweet Victorian-style portrait that changes into a toothy nightmare grin when you walk past it is exactly why some things belonged in attics. That's not lenticular art. That's hallway terrorism, the kind of piece that turns a quiet home into a low-budget psychological experiment. Number 47. The ghost hand mirror. An ornate mirror with a handprint trapped inside the glass, always cold in that exact spot, is not an antique. That's a lawsuit for your soul. No amount of Windex fixes a haunting. At some point, you stop cleaning and start wondering who touched it last. Number 48. The eye collection. A velvet box containing 6 antique glass eyes, all mounted to stare at the same upper left corner, is one of those objects that feels like it knows something you don't. That's not medical history. That's organized creepiness. Whatever was in that corner, I'm comfortable never knowing. Number 49. The truth mirror. A full-length mirror with a typed note reading, "Only reflects what you truly are, no refunds," is one of the pettiest possible cursed objects. That's not home furnishing, that's psychological roulette. Imagine buying a mirror and accidentally entering a moral performance review. Number 50. The grain of rice locket. A locked locket containing a single grain of rice painted with a microscopic angry face is the kind of detail that makes you respect the craft and fear the artist. That's not jewelry. That's tiny concentrated menace. Someone spent hours creating anger at the size of lunch. Number 51. Bob in the urn. An urn with a sticky note saying, "This is Bob. He hated this urn. Please find him a better home. He liked classic rock and hated coconut," is somehow both heartbreaking and deeply funny. That's not a purchase. That's adoption paperwork for a dead man with preferences. Number 52. The vengeful key. A single ornate antique key tagged, "If you're reading this, it's too late for me. Avenge me," is the thrift store equivalent of getting handed a side quest by a ghost. That's not hardware. That's narrative bait. And frankly, 50 cents is an incredible price for paranoia. Number 53. The penguin globe. An antique globe with a secret compartment hidden inside Madagascar containing a note that says, "The penguins know. Trust no one," is exactly the kind of object that ruins a perfectly normal afternoon. That's not geography. That's espionage for dads who own too many pens. Number 54. The skeleton cuckoo. A beautiful German cuckoo clock that sends out a tiny wooden skeleton instead of a bird every hour is an absolutely elite design choice. That's not timekeeping. That's mortality with wood carvings. It doesn't just tell time, it tells you time is winning. Number 55. The news anchor dummy. A professional ventriloquist dummy modeled exactly after a local 1980s news anchor is not novelty decor. That's identity theft in hardwood. Imagine being that anchor, walking into Goodwill, and seeing your own tiny wooden clone smiling from a shelf like it knows your blood type. Number 56. Haunted Monopoly. A Monopoly set where all the properties are famous haunted locations, and the chance cards say things like, "A ghost stole your wallet," is somehow more honest than regular Monopoly. That's not family game night. That's paranormal capitalism. Finally, a version where supernatural theft feels less cruel than rent. Number 57. The cookie accordion. A vintage accordion that inexplicably smells like fresh chocolate chip cookies every time you squeeze it is either magical or full of secrets that would fail health inspection. That's not an instrument, that's dessert jazz. Somewhere, one polka band got way too cozy and changed music forever. Number 58. The goblin wand. A cheap glitter wand with a note reading, "Barely used, Only a few small spells. Previous owner was a goblin. Is the exact level of nonsense thrift stores were born to preserve. That's not a toy. That's fantasy yard sale energy. You buy it purely for the note. Number 59. The Diane album, a photo album documenting the full life of a department store mannequin named Diane. Birthdays, graduations, wedding, and all. Is not scrapbooking. That's narrative commitment at a frankly alarming level. Somebody spent years emotionally investing in a plastic woman and, honestly, I respect the discipline, not the stability. Number 60. The French fry ledger, a 30-year handwritten ledger tracking every French fry eaten, including crispiness scores and dipping sauce notes, is not dieting. That's potato scholarship. It's the kind of long-term commitment most people won't give a marriage, yet somebody gave it to fried side dishes. America, never change. Number 61. Adult letters to Santa. A shoebox full of letters to Santa sounds sweet, until you realize they were all written by adults asking for lottery numbers, quieter husbands, and just enough self-control not to rob a bank. That's not holiday cheer. That's seasonal desperation with postage. Number 62. The Belly Button Lint Archive. A giant jar labeled Belly Button Lint, 1978 to 1998, is one of those finds that instantly proves free will was a mistake. That's not collecting. That's 2 decades of fluff-based discipline. Somewhere, somebody treated lint like a retirement portfolio and lost beautifully. Number 63. Mr. Bigglesworth's Diary. A diary written from the perspective of a cat named Mr. Bigglesworth somehow contains more emotional honesty than most memoirs. He judged the mailman, hated the dog, and remained committed to defeating the red dot. That's not journaling. That's feline propaganda with excellent penmanship. Number 64. The Beige Meal Album. A full photo album documenting nothing but beige food for 20 years is less a culinary record and more a hostage situation involving carbohydrates. Plain pasta, mashed potatoes, crackers, oatmeal. That's not a diet. That's color avoidance elevated into a private religion. Number 65. The Potato Salad Incident shirt. A faded reunion shirt reading, "I survived the Great Potato Salad Incident," is proof that every American family has one event nobody fully explains. That's not apparel. That's forensic evidence in cotton form. Aunt Carol absolutely knows more than she's saying. Number 66. The Emu Situation. An old answering machine full of frantic messages demanding to know what Barnaby had done about the emu situation is not voicemail. That's an unfinished regional crisis. You don't get multiple escalating calls about emus unless somebody made decisions that should have required a permit. Number 67. The Apology Jar. A glass jar stuffed with hundreds of tiny handwritten apologies for things like thinking a loud thought is either adorable or the emotional aftermath of growing up in a very specific household. That's not stationary. That's guilt, tightly rolled and alphabetized. Number 68. The Public Restroom Map. A beautifully pinned map of Wisconsin rating public restrooms for cleanliness, privacy, and toilet paper quality is the kind of civic dedication this country no longer deserves. That's not travel planning. That's bathroom cartography. 5 stars for effort, 4 for boundaries. Number 69. The Alibi Business Cards. A stack of business cards for Mitch Finnegan, professional alibi and believable excuse provider, feels like the most honest small business in America. That's not networking. That's outsourced lying with a slogan. Somewhere, Mitch either saved marriages or ruined several criminal investigations. Number 70. The Ficus Inheritance. A formal legal will, leaving an entire estate to a ficus tree named Philip, is the kind of document that tells you money never once improved this family. Mansion, cars, stocks, all for the plant. That's not estate planning. That's botanical vengeance. Number 71. The Vince Lombardi Sweater. A 58-cent thrift store sweater hiding an authentic Vince Lombardi play diagram is exactly why every old pocket in America deserves respect. That's not laundry luck. That's football archaeology. Somewhere, someone donated a small fortune because they couldn't be bothered to check knitwear thoroughly. Number 72. The Scarpa vase, a weird swirly glass vase used as a pen holder for 2 years, turned out to be a valuable Carlo Scarpa piece worth over $17,000. That's not decor, that's accidental sophistication. Nothing says thrift store America like using museum-grade design to hold mediocre office supplies. Number 73. The Olympic Medal Ski Suit. A $2 ski suit hiding a 1968 Olympic gold medal is one of those stories that sounds made up until you remember humans are terrible at pockets. That's not a lucky wash cycle. That's sports history tucked behind old insulation and forgotten glory. Number 74. The Comic Book Safe. A cheap locked safe full of pristine Golden Age Captain America comics is what happens when nerd luck reaches biblical levels. That's not a thrift score. That's a side quest with resale value. Pizza money in, wartime superhero jackpot out. Absolutely disrespectful to probability. Number 75. The Pizza Box Painting. A bizarre abstract painting done on a Domino's pizza box turning out to be an early work by a now famous local artist is so perfectly thrift store America it hurts. That's not trash. That's delayed cultural validation with grease stains and cardboard edges. Number 76. The Random Grandpa Wax Figure. A full life-size wax figure of a completely unknown old man in a cardigan, holding a pipe and looking mildly confused, is somehow more unsettling than any celebrity statue. That's not memorabilia. That's unsolicited inheritance. He looks like he has opinions about your thermostat. Number 77. The Miniature Suburb Table. A coffee table with a glass top revealing a tiny, handcrafted suburban neighborhood underneath is the kind of object that proves someone had both talent and absolutely no reasonable stopping point. That's not furniture. That's zoning laws turned into a living room centerpiece. Number 78. The Loudest Sneeze Certificate. An officially framed certificate crowning Gerald, the 1982 world record holder for loudest sneeze unassisted, might be the purest form of American achievement. That's not an award. That's nasal destiny. Somewhere, Gerald peaked in one explosive moment and never looked back. Number 79. The Parallel Parker Trophy. A giant trophy for Henderson County Best Parallel Parker is exactly the kind of deeply unnecessary local honor that makes this country worth studying. That's not recognition. That's municipal flirting with absurdity. Someone dominated curb space so hard they got hardware. Number 80. Most Indigestible Chili. A full-size trophy for third place in Most Indigestible Chili is one of the greatest accidental self-owns ever engraved in brass. That's not culinary pride, that's gastrointestinal infamy. Imagine cooking so badly a county fair immortalized your digestive threat to mankind. Number 81. The Grateful Dead Air. A Ziploc bag stapled to cardboard and labeled Authentic Air from a 1993 Grateful Dead concert is either a scam, performance art, or the purest form of boomer optimism. That's not memorabilia. That's seasoned oxygen with a tie-dye backstory. Number 82. The Alien Abduction Jacket. A faded denim jacket from the International Society of People Who Have Been Abducted by Aliens is exactly the kind of thrift store clothing that says, I have stories, and none of them improved with daylight. That's not fashion. That's intergalactic confidence in cotton. Number 83. The Phrenology Head. A ceramic phrenology head mapping personality traits by skull bumps feels like science after a 4-day bender. Love of family, witty banter, bargain addiction, all allegedly stored in forehead geography. That's not medicine. That's Victorian astrology with shelves and delusion. Number 84. The Mini Traffic Cone Collection. A box of miniature traffic cones, each tagged with the date and intersection where the real one was stolen, is not a collection. It's a confession with labeling discipline. Somewhere, one deeply committed idiot built a museum of municipal inconvenience. Number 85. The Lobotomy Kit. A vintage medical kit for lobotomies hiding among kitchen utensils is the kind of find that makes you look at every stainless steel object differently. That's not a collector's item. That's retro horror in a velvet-lined case. The 1950s really had wild ideas about calming down. Number 86. The uranium chemistry set, a children's chemistry kit from the 1950s containing actual uranium ore, is one of those objects that feels fake. Until you remember, America used to sell danger in cheerful packaging. That's not educational. That's glow-in-the-dark negligence with a cardboard box and optimistic font. Number 87. The lie detector disaster. A home lie detector kit with a note saying, "This thing told my dad I stole his last beer. Ruined Thanksgiving. Do not use," is the kind of product review Amazon can only dream of. That's not family tech. That's emotional napalm with finger clamps. Number 88. The cat translator. A 1990s device that supposedly translated cat meows into English feels less like innovation and more like wishful thinking sponsored by loneliness. It only said things like, "I am hungry," and "leave me alone," which, to be fair, is also roughly 98% of actual cat ideology. Number 89. The perfect egg cuber. A home device designed to turn hard-boiled eggs into perfect cubes is the kind of invention that proves progress is not always wisdom. That's not kitchen efficiency. That's geometric breakfast obsession. Nobody needed square eggs, which is exactly why somebody devoted engineering resources to them. Number 90. The parrot etiquette tape. A cassette titled "So Your Parrot Has a Potty Mouth" contains calming music and a man gently repeating, "Pretty bird doesn't use that word." That's not pet training. That's avian HR. Somewhere, one parrot absolutely won this battle and learned several new curse words. Number 91. Cat goggles. Tiny sunglasses marketed for cats are one of those products that tell you somebody confused optimism with a business model. That's not pet care. That's delusional eyewear. You're not protecting a cat from glare. You're starting a war with an animal that already hates your furniture. Number 92. Operation Squirrel Freedom. A binder titled Operation Squirrel Freedom laid out a full tactical plan to train squirrels to steal walnuts from a hated neighbor named Mr. Henderson. That's not gardening. That's rodent espionage. Somebody weaponized backyard wildlife over produce, and honestly, that's elite suburban villainy. Number 93. The parasite china. A full set of elegant china decorated with scientifically accurate human parasites is exactly what happens when fine dining meets a biology textbook and neither side blinks. That's not dinnerware. That's appetite suppression with gold trim. Nothing pairs with spaghetti like a detailed tapeworm illustration. Number 94. The grief flute. A custom-made grief flute designed for funerals of people you didn't actually like is an unbelievably specific product category. It was supposedly meant to sound mildly annoying and vaguely disappointing. That's not mourning. That's passive-aggressive bereavement with woodwind support. Number 95. The street sign armchair. An armchair made entirely from old street signs is functional, impressive, and also a beautifully upholstered confession. That's not furniture. That's misdemeanor chic. Somewhere, a man stole enough traffic control to build seating, then sat back proudly like zoning laws were a personal insult. Number 96. Nicolas Cage eating cereal. A giant, masterfully painted portrait of Nicolas Cage in pajamas thoughtfully eating cereal is not just art, it's civilization peaking and then wandering into goodwill. That's not a painting. That's a cathedral of misplaced effort. You don't hang it, you surrender a wall to it. Number 97. The suggestion box lie. A wooden suggestion box that turns out to be a solid block with a fake painted slot is one of the cleanest corporate jokes ever built. That's not office decor. That's management philosophy in physical form. You can almost hear HR saying, "We value input," while welding the lid shut. Number 98. The ambient silence record. A vinyl album titled "The Ambient Sounds of an Empty Room," delivering 30 minutes of silence, room tone, and faint creaks, is either profound art or the most patient prank in audio history. That's not music. That's expensive nothing pressed onto wax for intellectuals and insomniacs. Number 99. The Remove Before Flight binder. A giant binder full of Remove Before Flight tags with notes suggesting they were all found raises one immediate question. Found where exactly? That's not aviation memorabilia. That's airport kleptomania with filing discipline. You don't accidentally collect that many without also collecting concern. Number 100. The Traffic Jam Board Game. A board game where the goal is to reach the finish line last, and most turns involve not moving at all, is maybe the most brutally honest game America ever made. That's not entertainment. That's commuter despair in a box. Whoever designed it absolutely hated highways and families equally. Number 101. The Hamster Knight. A perfectly crafted miniature suit of medieval armor made specifically for a hamster is what happens when a person has both talent and absolutely no correct priorities. That's not pet gear. That's rodent feudalism. Somewhere, Sir Nibbles was apparently expected to die for the crown. Number 102. The Angry Rice Locket. A locked locket containing a single grain of rice painted with a microscopic angry face is the kind of detail that makes you admire the craftsmanship and fear the artist. That's not jewelry. That's concentrated hostility. Someone really miniaturized rage and gave it a hinge. Number 103. The World's Okayest Brother Trophy. A trophy proudly declaring someone the world's okayest brother is not an award. It's a family argument cast in plastic and gold spray paint. That's not celebration. That's passive aggression with a pedestal. Honestly, it may be the most emotionally accurate trophy ever made. Number 104. The Procrastinator Trophy. A World's Best Procrastinator Trophy awarded in 2005 for a competition supposedly won in 1999 is such a committed joke it crosses into greatness. That's not recognition. That's delayed excellence. Somebody waited 6 full years to land the punchline, and frankly, that level of discipline deserves respect. Number 105. The Pet Rock Biographies. A blender box filled not with a blender, but with pet rocks, each with a tiny name tag and handwritten dreams, is exactly the kind of thrift store reveal that makes you respect madness as a craft. That's not packaging failure. That's geology with character development. Number 106. The Human Manual. A spiral-bound guide called Being a Human, a user's guide for beginners, is one of those finds that feels funny for about 3 seconds and then a little too real. That's not self-help. That's emergency camouflage for people trying to pass as normal in meetings. Number 107. The Sock Puppet Mafia. A whole organized crime family of sock puppets in tiny suits, complete with names like Don Sacchioni, is not arts and crafts. That's witness protection for feet. Somebody built a full criminal underworld out of old laundry and felt zero shame about it. Respect, honestly. Number 108. The Genuine Canned Laughter. A can labeled Genuine Canned Laughter that warns of nostalgia and mild disappointment is about the most honest comedy product ever made. That's not a novelty item. That's 1970s sitcom sorrow sealed in metal. Open carefully. The laugh track may judge your current life. Number 109. The Mime Emergency Box. A red emergency box reading, "In case of mime emergency," with an air horn inside, is the kind of object that suggests a very specific feud lasted way too long. That's not a gag gift. That's anti-performance infrastructure. Somewhere, one silent man absolutely earned this. Number 110. The Invisible Dog Leash. A handle sold as an invisible dog leash promises a no-tangle, no-mess walk every time, which is technically true if your dog is entirely fictional. That's not pet care. That's consumer optimism detached from reality. America really monetized pretending and put it in blister packaging. Number 111. The Truth Mirror. And then there's the full-length mirror with a note saying it only reflects what you truly are. No refunds. That's not furniture. That's judgment with a frame. The perfect final thrift store object. Cheap, unsettling, and somehow personal. Because in the end, thrift stores don't sell junk. They sell unresolved explanations. So far, we've learned one beautiful thing about America. A thrift store is never just a thrift store. It's a public archive of abandoned obsessions, cursed craft projects, niche emotional breakdowns, and objects so specific they could only have existed because one person had too much time, too little supervision, and access to glue. Somewhere between the dentures chair, the grief flute, the squirrel politician, and the mirror with attitude, resale culture stopped being shopping and became archaeology. That's the real magic of a thrift store. You walk in expecting chipped mugs, dead lamps, and sweaters that smell like someone else's attic. And every now and then, the universe hands you a prosthetic leg lamp, a haunted music box, a hamster night, or a full-blown emotional support brick named Bartholomew. Because thrift stores don't just sell old stuff, they sell the leftover evidence of American creativity, grief, boredom, comedy, bad taste, and total psychological freestyling. And honestly, that's why they're beautiful. Not because everything in there is valuable, because everything in there meant something to someone deeply strange. So now I need to know, which thrift store find was the funniest, the creepiest, or the one that made you think, yeah,